Phil Murphy, Kane Pitman with us as well, and Aaron Atayde. Welcome you back to Nothing But Net. We are somehow a quarter into the year already, but for us hoop heads, that means that postseason basketball is coming, Phil.
Yeah, it's time now for Aussies in Action, presented by Amy. Kane Pitman, I figured you'd be halfway to Tasmania by now. You're always welcome here. We'll talk about NBA Aussies. You have a whole show dedicated to NBL Aussies. It's called The Jump. Joe Ingles isn't known for jumping. He's known for locker room leadership, a lethal shot. 55 games off the bench this season for the Magic. Orlando very quietly, winners of 4 in a row, winners 9 of the last 11. Half game back of the Knicks for the 4 seed and home court in the first round, Aaron.
That is going to be interesting, and there were concerns on whether or not we will get to see Patty Mills in the playoffs, but luckily his move from the Atlanta Hawks to the Miami Heat gives us better chances of seeing him in postseason play. Patty went from getting spot minutes in the ATL to playing in each of his last 6 games with the Heat. Miami is currently in 8th place, holding on to a 2.5 game lead on the Chicago Bulls, with the Hawks even further back of them. As for Joe Ingles and the Orlando Magic, they're in a dogfight with the New York Knicks. And as you said, as those two teams duke it out to see who would have potential home court advantage in a 4-5 series, as we are joined, of course, by our buddy Kane Pitman. Kane, you sat down with Patty Mills on this exact show, and he talked about how important it was for him to see postseason play. Now, what does it mean for Miami that he could be there for them if they do make it into the play-in and further on?
Well, he also just wanted to play at all because we know it wasn't happening in Atlanta going back earlier in the season. So he came to a situation where not only do you have potential of playing in the postseason, but you have a spot where you're going to get minutes straight away, because this Miami team, it feels like we're in this situation every single year, but they're riddled by injuries right now, and they're not exactly winning a whole bunch of games. The question for Patty when it comes to the postseason is he going to be a guy that can knock down a bunch of threes in a one-off potential playoff game if the Heat are healthy? So they've had Josh Richardson out of the rotation. Caleb Martin's been in and out. We know Tyler Hero's been out for a while. Jimmy Butler in and out as well. Patty was 3 for 4 in his first game with the Heat. Since then, he's been 2 for 19 from 3, so he's really struggled from the outside. But that's going to be his value to this Miami team, who just continue to lurk, and we all think, are they going to be dangerous? Probably. History says they are.
Yeah, with Spo, always have that potential. Kane, let's stick in Florida. It's too cold elsewhere in America this week. Hey, Orlando would love it if they were hosting a playoff series, at least having home court advantage. What can our boy Jingles do when they get there?
Yeah, I remember being around this team earlier in the season. It was in the midst of a patch through the middle of the regular season where they were really struggling. So the Magic started the season really hot, and you already mentioned the numbers earlier in this segment, Phil. They've been on a hot streak of late. And Joe told me that he was telling the guys, this is a really young Orlando team, and he said, look, guys, do not panic right now. You're going to go through this in the regular season. It's going to be a roller coaster. It's 82 games, and it's all about timing at the back end of the season. The Magic are still in the mix for potentially home court, that maybe that's a series with New York or the Cleveland Cavaliers. The one thing that he brings to this team, 44% from 3. The other stat that you love is that the Orlando Magic offense is 7.8 points per 100 possessions better when Joe Ingles is on the floor, because he can run the offense as a point forward, settle everything down, and make sure these young guys aren't getting too carried away with the moment, perhaps when other teams go on a run.
But as Phil said, not a lot of jumping. We'll just make sure that we get that one
stats.
Now, if the Eastern Conference has a couple of veteran boomers ready for another postseason run in the West, we got a few young Aussies ready to make their mark in the playoffs. And one of the names that immediately jumps out to us is New Orleans guard Dyson Daniels, who injured his knee back in early parts of February, but has made major strides towards returning to the streaking Pelicans. He has been cleared to return to practice as a full participant. Coach Willie Green is hoping for a return to action next week.
Aaron, an injury opened the door for Jock Landale to get added minutes in Houston. The 28-year-old scored 10 yesterday in a blowout win over Washington. Had 7 blocks. The Block It Rocket, we're still workshopping that, sparked H-Town to a 6th straight win. And don't go to sleep yet on the launch pad just yet. The Rockets, 2.5 games of Golden State for the 10 seed in the last spot in the play-in. Back to the block party, the Jock party. Landale's 7 blocks tie Luke Longley for second most ever by an Australian in an NBA game, trailing only Andrew Bogut ever. And 5 of those rejections were on shot attempts by Jordan Poole.
Yes.
So the block party spoiled the pool party.
Yeah, so on the other side of Texas, the Mavericks could be without Josh Green for an extended period of time, but that gives Dante Exum a chance to get back into the form that he was hitting earlier on in the season. Exum led the second unit in yesterday's win against the Spurs with 16 big points. Dante then spoke to the media afterwards about the perks of playing with Luka.
No matter, how Luka's playing, if he's playing amazing, he's going to get doubled. If he's playing, bad, he's going to get doubled. So he's always going to create opportunities for everyone to score and make the next play. So I think it's just on us to, be confident in that and just do that.
And by doing that, the Mavericks have overtaken the Phoenix Suns for the 7th spot in the standings and one game out of the play-in tournament entirely. When it comes to Jock Landale and the Houston Rockets, like you said, they're slowly making up ground on the Lakers and Warriors, eating into that lead as it is now down to just 2.5. Now, there were a ton of names discussed for numerous different roles and different reasons, but winning is the ultimate goal. Out of all of the Aussies that we featured, which ones are the ones that you believe have the most importance of making that title run?
Yeah, I think it's going to be those two and the Dallas Mavericks because they continue to be a threat. Because of the top-end talent, we discussed it on the show yesterday. You got Luka, you got Kyrie. Other teams are going to be scared about those two guys. But the reason why I love hopefully Josh Green getting healthy and Dante Exum for this team is their outside shooting. This Dallas team, I think, lacks the shooting, particularly in the starting lineup. Even last night in that win against San Antonio, that felt like a danger game. And Dante Exum, you mentioned it, 4 for 4 from 3. The whole team only hit 10. In the win over Denver a couple of nights ago, they only hit 9. I think they're going to need to hit more threes than that, and you're going to get open looks with Luka and Kyrie at the point guard position. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we get to a playoff game, if the Mavericks get out of the play-in, where you see Dante Exum or Josh Green starting because they might want that added shooting. There's only 2 guys outside of Luka and Kyrie that have shot 38% plus from 3 on the season. Dante Exum, 47%, Josh Green, 41%. And just before we wrap it up, what about Block Landau? What do you think?
Hey,
It's not bad. Better than the block at Rocket.
There we go.
I mean, I was going to call them the Mavericks Alice because they had no D, but then they've won 6 of the last 7. They've been playing terrific defensive basketball. We should move on.